Hey, what's going on, lovely people? My name is Millennium and welcome back to another Millennium music production tutorial. Today I've got a how to make hard trap for you guys. I've made this little project file here which I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to take you through it step by step, being drums, presets and mixing. We're going to check out how we made this drop right here. I'm going to leave this FLP file in the description for you guys so you can download it. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. We're gonna listen through the whole track first and then I'm gonna break it down, guys. Let's go. Alright guys, so you can clearly see how easy it is to make a hard trap drop, right? Even if we look at the small things like drums, I've only got 3 little layers right here. I've got 1 kick and 2 snares, sounding like this, a very basic trap pattern. Now, not a lot of work went into this. It was just a fast tutorial, mainly focusing on the bass line in here, which is also pretty easy. It's basically 3 serum patches I made. But first, let's quickly roll through these drums right here. If we look at the drum, the kick has only 4 plugins to it. First thing we did right here is I added a little bell peak right here to make even more punch into the kick. If we listen to only this little part, we can clearly hear this is where the kick is booming, and that is what we need to push up there. Next up, just some glue compression, some wave shaper to add a little bit of crunch to it, and last but not least, some soft clipping just to give it that extra edge, that little more loudness it needs. Now, next up, we've got the 2 snares sounding like this. Now, both snares have almost the exact same EQ on them, just cutting away all the low end below 100 Hz. And this small one also has a bit of wave shaper on there, just to give it a little bit more spice, a little bit more crunch. And then on the drum bass, of course, some more glue compression to glue it all together. There we go. So if we now look at this bass line I've got right here, which is of course the main showpiece of the drop, right? Let's have a look at this preset. As you can clearly see, it's not that difficult to make. I made this special wavetable myself. I can do a tutorial for you guys on how to make your own wavetables in Serum. It's a very interesting subject to me and I really like experimenting with it, just doing random stuff with random samples. If you guys want to see a tutorial on that, be sure to drop a comment down below and I'll be sure to do that because it's a really cool trick to have up your sleeve. Now, let's dissect this really quickly. The first thing I did is I made this custom wavetable with a sample of me whispering something. Let me just quickly take off all the effects right here. That way you can clearly see what only that sample sounds like, and that is like this. So it's a very empty sounding wave on its own. Now the first thing I did is I lowered this 2 octaves. Get that really fat sub bass from it. Then I added some white noise to it, because I was planning on adding some distortion to this to make it sound really crunchy, and white noise adds a lot to that effect. Now the second thing I did right here is I put this oscillator B on the normal saw wave, but I pushed it up 3 octaves and I did some frequency modulating, making this a very high pitched sound you hear. Now to finish this off, I added some effects to this, starting with hyperdimension to make it sound a little bit more wide, distortion to make it fatter, compression to make it even more fat, chorus to make it even wider again, and last but not least some reverb and EQ. Just tiny bit of EQ right here, pushing this harsh frequency zone to make it stand out even more. And before you know it, you've got this sick bass. Now, basically that is the entire drop, other than this little sample right here, which I got from a free drum and bass sample pack by DJ Hazard. You can find that on his SoundCloud, which I'll link in the description as well for you guys. It's a very, very well-known sample, especially in the drum and bass community, so it's always nice to incorporate these tiny little things in there that people probably know. So that's how simple it is to make the first drop of this little track right here. Now, of course, you can add in some little fills like this, or the snare roll right here. Something I also did is I reversed the snare into the kick, as you can hear right here. Adds a lot of impact to your drops as well. Now, if we look at the second drop right here, we added a second bass sound and we got rid of the sample. Now, this second drop actually consists of 3 different patches. The first one is the basic one from the first drop. Then the second one is that exact same patch I've got right here. This one. I just copied the first patch, basically, and I added an LFO to the volume, so it has this like pulsing sound to it, and then I put on a combs filter to make it a little bit more resonant, and I automated some knobs on there as well. You can see how the comb filter is kind of flickering on and off there. Now the third and final sound is this completely different patch I made. Sounds like this. Now on here I was also planning to do a combs filter, but I removed it, but you can keep it on. It's whatever you prefer. Right now, if we dissect this preset right here, we've got the mini bass and analog dB sine wavetables, which are found under the analog tab in Serum. Very basic wavetables, right? I used this automation clip right here to automate a lot of different parameters, 10 to be precise, as you can see. Now we did the same thing here, right? We switched this one down 2 octaves and put this one up 2 octaves to just get that really big difference in frequencies in there, which is a very nice thing to do if you want this very, very harsh sounding bass. We also did some more FM on there with from B to A. Now our second wavetable right here on oscillator B, we added some asymmetry plus warping to this, as you can see, just to make it even more gritty. We also automated the level on oscillator A, on the sub, and on the noise as well, to make that very stuttery kind of bass. Then I added some distortion to make it really crunchy, hyperdimension to make it sound more wide, some flanger to give it a little bit of movement throughout the bass, not too static, some multiband compression to get that high sound out there again, some more phaser and chorus to make it wide and move around more, some EQ, and last but not least, some reverb as well, to make it not too dry, of course. And now together, those two sound like this. And as you can clearly hear, the second bass we made, which is this patch right here, clearly comes through way more. That's because I mixed this in with the channel volume knobs right here to stand out more. The other bass is more kind of support to make it sound fuller and wider. If I look through how I made these basses and how I took them into the mixer and mixed them, pretty easily. First bass. That's the second one right here. Just some wave shaper, make it very crunchy and thick. Some fruity compressor to bring it a little bit more together, you know, add some glue to it. And then some Pro Q2 right here to get rid of all the low ends, because the sub is being driven by the other patch, which is this one, of course. In this one, I boosted the sub a little bit because that's the main thing of this bass, the sub and high frequencies. Then I cut right here around 150 Hz because that is the really muddy area in bass lines, and you don't want that in your tracks because it just fills up with mud and your tracks sound disgusting at the end. Some wave shaper to make it more crunchy and hard hitting. Some ozone imager to make sure the low end is fully mono because you don't want a stereo sub ever. And some compression just to glue it all together. Now on the bass bus I did not put any effects, and last but not least on my master chain I added a little bit of glue compression, some Pro L2 to make sure we're not clipping too much, and well, Span is just a free wave analyzer plugin. Where you can clearly see which frequencies stand out in your track. And now that's how easy it is to make a fast hard trap type beat and bass, like in a style of big artists like Peekaboo, ATLIENS, all those guys. It's pretty easy to make, you just need to know how. Now, as I said, guys, I'm going to be dropping this free FLP in the description down below, together with the link to the free downloadable pack where I got this from. Same as this and this. It's backed by DJ Hybrid, which is free to download on his SoundCloud. Gonna link that in the description as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you guys learned something. That's probably the most important part of these tutorials anyway. If you guys decide to make something using my presets, using this FLP, be sure to send me a DM. I love to see what you guys come up with in terms of making tracks your own. I hope you guys join me in the next video. Feel free to drop a comment, a like, subscribe if you want to see more of these small tutorials coming up more send me your IDs for tutorials as well. I'll be sure to look at every single comment I got. And thank you guys for being here. I'm Millennium and I'm out. Peace.
I want that more than anything in this world. I want you to fight like hell to stay with us. But with everybody else gone, I know it might not be what you want. It might be too hard for you to keep fighting. So if you want to go, I want you to know it's okay.